So I've heard a lot over the last couple of weeks about people complaining about coaches who lack integrity. And I roll my eyes at this stuff, obviously. I've talked ad nauseum about this. But I wanted you to just remember this, because I don't think you've probably thought about this. And I guess that's my job, to bring up stuff you haven't thought of. When Nick Saban, the greatest college football coach in the history of the sport, that created the greatest dynasty in the history of the sport, was head coach of the Dolphins, he famously said during the season, "I am not going to be the Alabama coach." 2 weeks later, he left for Alabama. Integrity. He had 3 years left on his contract at $4.5 million a year with the Dolphins. Kim Bocamper, former Dolphin turned sports talk personality, said, "Wayne Huizenga, that's the Dolphins owner, was in the garbage business for years. Nick Saban may be the biggest piece of trash he's ever collected." Integrity. So the greatest college football coach ever. Bill Belichick, the greatest coach ever. Before he went to New England, he became head coach of the New York Jets for a day. Then he bailed. He scrawled his resignation letter on a napkin that said, "I resign as HC of the NYJ." So it seems like we should know the difference between integrity and somebody who has the smarts to chase a better opportunity when he sees it. Let's use a new word, naive, for those of you who don't get the business. Speaking of all these new college football coaches, as I talked about, I think the other day on the podcast, there is no perfect coach, right? Everybody outside of Saban has a hole. Lincoln Riley doesn't have a huge presence, soft-spoken. Brett Venables, in an offensive era where Nick Saban admits you can't stop anybody, he's all defense, little dorky, little quirky. Brian Kelly is a complete stranger to the South, a weird fit, and basically only got one coach from the Notre Dame staff. He's got to totally rebuild the LSU staff. Marcus Freeman, Notre Dame, has no big game experience, no head coaching experience. And Mario Cristobal's never developed a quarterback. I would say Lincoln Riley and Mario Cristobal have the greatest chance to succeed. They both play in weaker conferences, but in recruiting hotbeds. So I think Cristobal and Lincoln Riley, by year 2, will be building noticeably better programs. I think Marcus Freeman and Brian Kelly could be a little rocky early. I mean, do you think Brian Kelly's going to build the perfect staff? He's harsh. He's not Southern. He can rub people the wrong way. And Marcus Freeman's going to take a while to figure out the head coach thing, right? It's going to take him a while to be on that sideline and realize he makes the big call. I don't think there's a bust in the group, although I think Brent Venables is in a weird space. So as he moves to the toughest conference, the SEC, that's a big disadvantage. They bail on an offensive system that's as good as any in college football, the Lincoln Riley system. Secondly, it's very much understood that if you go to the SEC, defense no longer dominates it. The best quarterback does. Cam Newton did, Joe Burrow did, Tua did, Mac Jones did, Bryce Young did. It's no longer dominated by the best defense because the rules have all changed. So Venables has no history of being offensively clever. As I've said before, whatever side of the ball you're on, those are your greatest allies and your greatest information. So I'm interested to watch Venables, and his big roadblock, he's going to the SEC. We didn't know if this thing was going to work for Oklahoma in the SEC with Lincoln Riley and momentum. I think he's the one coach that could have a very, very rocky beginning.